tell us how well your husband is presiding at home. Got some really, really good feedback. And honestly, almost all of the feedback was like, I need you to take lead. Stop making me do it.
Whoa.
I want you to lead at home.
I have had it with it. HAD had it with that tradition. We got to get it out of there.
It was the most emotional testimony meeting I've ever been a part to. And I've been to girls' camp. So it was.
Whoa.
That is some like generational change.
Blown away. I'm like, as he tells me this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we made a connection.
And now let us reason together.
Welcome back to Salty Saints. My name is Hayden Holm. This is my brother Tanner. And today we have a special guest with us. This is Ryan Mills. He commented on our Elders Quorum call-out video just recently. And when I looked into his comments, I discovered that he was doing a lot of really cool things with this Elders Quorum and realized that we need more people seeing what he's doing. So, Ryan, we'd love to get a little bit of background. What experience do you have in the church? What kind of callings have you served in? What's your ward makeup, and where are you located? Sorry, that's a lot of questions, but
a lot of questions. Let's take those one by one. So first off, I don't know about special guests, but I do appreciate you guys having me on. This is pretty cool for me. So I live right now. I live in Southwest Ohio. So I'm in the Dayton area, which is kind of what we're like right by Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So it kind of creates a unique makeup for our ward. We've got, there are a fair number of families who are consistent and they stay and they've been here for a while, but our ward's really transient too, because everybody else is Air Force. So there's a lot of coming and going, a lot of guys, a lot of families that are kind of moving in and out a lot. We've gotten really good at moves, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in Utah County, and I've moved out here about 20 years ago, and served my mission here. And it's like the
awesome.
story. Like, I served my mission here, and then people always ask you, like, why'd you go back? Well, I met a girl, and then that's kind of
one thing led to another. Yeah.
To another, and here I am, like, living in the Midwest. I like never in a million years thought that was going to happen. But yeah, so I am I'm the Elders Quorum president in our ward right now. I think I'm coming up on 4 years. I think 4 years this year.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I guess I did have one of my stake presidency members told me the other day. They're like, yeah, you're like the ranking Elders Quorum president in the stake now. I'm like, I still feel like I have no idea.
You either must be doing something right or haven't learned your lesson yet. I don't know.
That's
one of them.
It's one of those two. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the changes you've made. Let's start off. You mentioned doing an Elders Quorum retreat, like a men's retreat, and I heard that, and I was just like, first of all, how in the world did you get budget for that? Because last time I checked, $50 can barely buy you a dozen eggs these days. So, so let's walk through that. So talk me through the whole process. Like what happened?
So
how did you get there? What was it like? But go for it.
That for sure, that was the big challenge. Like, honestly, the hardest part was the budget. And it's funny because I remember listening to one of the other episodes you guys had, reading some comments, and I want to say there was another Elders Quorum president or somebody that said, oh yeah, like we gave our Elders Quorum budget to the Relief Society. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. That's sad. That's sad.
I just about lost it. Like I'm yelling at my phone, like, how could you do this?
Yeah.
But the whole idea kind of started for me. I actually had joined a different men's group. It was like an online kind of a mastermind men's group that was specifically focused on guys who were just trying to make their lives better, trying to be a better man, and with a real focus on kind of reclaiming traditional masculinity.
Cool.
And that really resonated with me. It's pretty cool. I definitely would recommend it to anybody. There are a lot of guys who are members of the church who are part of the group.
That's
probably
awesome.
Iron Council. If you want to look it up, it's pretty cool. And what I found, I was a member of that group for like 18 months. And during that time, I kept thinking to myself, like, this is what Elders Quorum's supposed to be. Like,
Oh, really?
what
So
it should
what
be.
about it? Let's unpack that a little bit. So what about that group really resonated with you?
So what really resonated with me the most, there were a couple things. One, everybody was there by choice. They wanted to be there. They weren't being forced by their wife to show up. It wasn't like, hey, if I'm not a part of this, like, then I'm going to have to listen to my wife nag. Like, it was like, no, I choose to be here.
Yeah.
That was a big reason. The other part of it, it was, guys were genuinely, I don't like the V word, vulnerable, but they were honest.
Yeah.
Like, they were genuinely honest, and they were not afraid to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm struggling with fill in the blank, right? I'm really struggling with pornography. I'm really struggling with my physical health. I'm really struggling with substance abuse or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There, for whatever reason, and I think it was just because it was an honest environment, it allowed other guys to feel like I can be honest. Like, if he's being honest, he's kind of up, I can do the same thing. When I saw that and like experienced that, I'm like, this is like what Elders Quorum should be. I shouldn't have to go to my Elders Quorum and like bury my face in my phone and check my fantasy football scores during class, like during our discussion.
Right.
Like, I shouldn't
and
have
double
to
check if your kid has to go potty. It's like, does he need to go to the bathroom? Are you sure? Because
I mean, I shouldn't have to do that. Like, I should be able to go to these guys in my quorum and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help? Or to have somebody else come to me and say, hey, like, I'm really struggling with this. Do you have a suggestion? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah.
That was what it was for me. And so, like, as I thought about that, and then I got called to be the Elders Quorum president, that instantly for me, I was like, there's got to be a change in our quorum. I wanted to turn our quorum into that, not in the same sense, because it's a secular organization for sure. And so I wasn't trying to copy that, but there were so many elements of just what I thought a quorum should be that existed there that didn't exist in any Elders Quorum I'd ever been a part of.
Well, I really like that call out that people were open. They were honest. Like, their guard was down. They wanted to be there. They were checked in. They were engaged. And you were saying that people resonated. I think what it actually is that people just realize that they're not alone in their struggles. They don't feel isolated anymore. Like, that's some of the comments that we get. Like, if we put out a video saying like, hey, maybe happy wife, happy life is a trash mantra to live your life by. And we got people that were like, man, I thought I was the only one, and it's like, wow, maybe there are other people out there that are struggling, and Elders Quorum could be a place where they can figure that out and say like, hey, I'm struggling here too. Let's figure this out. I love that. So what else? What else did you resonate with in this
the
group?
Other thing that was really cool about that is they did these events. They did men's retreats, and they put on events. Had father-son retreats, and they had men's specific retreats, and it was these huge events that would be a weekend long or 3 or 4 days long, and they'd go and they would do really hard things together. What
do you mean by really hard things? Are we talking about like taxes, or are we talking about like Spartan race kind of hard?
Like Spartan race type stuff, right?
Okay.
They would go and like work physically. Most of it was physical, but they did a lot. There was a lot of introspective work and emotional work and things like that as well, but a lot of it was very physically daunting and tough. And there's something about that, like, I'm sure you guys have probably had experiences similar to that, where you're serving alongside somebody and it just sucks, and you like, to use a military term, you like embrace the suck, and you embrace
absolutely.
And like that,
it's shared trauma. Yeah, you get that shared trauma, and it forms a concrete bond with that person where you're like, you know what, we went through something really tough together. I can now more fully trust you, and you can trust me. I've got your back. You've got mine. It's really powerful. And I like that you bring that up, it's interesting that I just saw an article this week that said that hospitals are now prescribing Spartan races to patients like who are suffering with mental illness right now. So if you are depressed or if you're anxious and stuff like that, they're saying like, go and do something difficult. And I am not 100% sure what it is outside of maybe it's just people need to become more mentally resilient, and doing really tough things with other people can not only give you a bond and form more trust and make you feel less isolated, but it can also help you become mentally tough and realize that maybe you're stronger than you thought you were. Yep. I love that.
Yep, absolutely. So I took these ideas and I'll just be honest, I totally copied a lot of the stuff that they were doing with their events. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get my whole quorum to go to these events, but maybe I can sort of bring some elements of those events to my quorum.
I love that. They say mimicry is the highest form of flattery, right? So I think you're fully in your rights to do that.
Exactly. So we now this took a lot of planning. I will tell you that the biggest obstacles we had were the planning and the budget. You might have thought I was going to say that one of the biggest obstacles was, getting the wives to sign off or whatever it was. And no, I'll get to that here in a minute.
Really?
But it took a lot of planning, believe it or not.
I believe it. Yeah.
We did, I kind of marketed this thing to all the guys, to the ward, is like, hey, you've been to fathers and sons campouts before. This isn't that, but bring yourself, bring your boys, and we're going to go do some hard things together. We're going to go camp, and it worked out really well. So one of my counselors he's got like a 22-acre farm, right? So we're like, this is perfect. Like we looked at a ton of different options. We have a church camp not too far away. We looked at that as an option. We looked at like a campground, renting like a big group site. And for the things that we wanted to do, we needed more flexibility. And I understand that doesn't work everywhere. It worked out perfectly for us because what it allowed us to do was to go and set up a bunch of things ahead of time. So we had basically throughout the entire farm, we had basically different stations that we went and set up. Had these things all set up, brought the guys all together Friday evening. And basically what we did is we had, Friday evening was the typical, Latter-day Saint camp out thing. Like you Friday night, you just come and have fun and hang out by the fire and you do your own dinner and blah, blah, blah. What we did add was we added in it ended up being like a really cool, I think, sort of fireside. And what the fireside was focused on is feedback that we got, and I'll kind of share some insight on this too. Feedback that I solicited from the men's wives, like direct feedback. Hey guys, this is from your wife, and young man, this is from your mom. Like this is what they want from you.
And let's explore that while we're let's go down that path. Like let's explore this. I am so interested. I'm on the edge of my seat. So you got a questionnaire into the hands of these women, and what kind of questions did you ask?
So I did. So and I went I worked with the Relief Society president, and I went into Relief Society to explain to the sisters what we were doing. And this was months in advance, right? And I shared actually a lot of the same statistics that Hayden, that you've shared, on some of your past recent episodes about men of kind of middle-aged men being the most likely to unalive themselves. Yeah. And shared some of those things, and I think it was a pretty sobering conversation to have with the sisters. But actually, let me pull up. I've got the actual questions that I asked. So, and this was all anonymous, of course. I just basically created like a Google form, sent it out to them, made sure, look, I'm not collecting email addresses, not collecting names or anything. Like, please be as honest as you can be, right?
You're not going to have a Nigerian prince knocking on your door anytime soon. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, okay. So I do need to kind of connect this to, we had created a vision. That's one of the things that I've also done in my quorum since I've been in this calling, is every year we have a vision, kind of sort of like the youth have a certain theme or whatever.
Yeah.
So the first year we did this, our vision was based on kind of our charge in the family proclamation to protect, preside, and provide.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of our vision. So all the questions were centered around those three things. So the first question that I asked in the form for the sisters was based on presiding. So it said, my husband is currently leading our family in spiritual matters and practices in the way we need him to. Please rate your husband on a scale from 1 to 10 on how well he's doing with that. Right. So
Whoa.
Look, tell us how well your husband is presiding at home. Right.
In a completely anonymous way. Yeah.
In a completely anonymous way. And, for that one, the responses that we got were like all across the spectrum. We got some ones, we got twos, we got a lot of 4s, 5s, and 6s, and we got a few 8s, 9s, and 10s, but it was all across the spectrum. So that was pretty telling. And then the subsequent after that was, hey, if there were 1 or 2 ways that you would want to tell your husband how to be a better partner with you in leading and presiding spiritually, emotionally, financially within your relationship, what would it be? So it's kind of, hey, rate your husband, and then here's just a free form. Tell him what you want him to know, basically, and I'll deliver the message. Got some really, really good feedback, and honestly, almost all of the feedback was like, I need you to take lead. Like, stop making me do it.
Whoa.
I want you to lead at home. Almost
really?
Every one of the responses. It was really, really cool.
So it was a call to action. It was saying like, hey, step up, stop leaning on me, stop believing the whole happy wife, happy life thing. You got to cut it out.
Exactly.
I love that. Wow. Okay. So you got all these surveys, you got it all collected. The average says like, yeah, they're doing a lukewarm job. And the women are saying, I need you to step up. I need you to lead out. And so you're at this retreat now. You're at a fireside. You give them these results. What's the reaction?
It was like stunned silence. Initially, it was like stunned silence. And we talked about that one. I had questions about how is your husband providing? How is your husband protecting? The biggest question I think really that was very telling was, and this I think you guys are going to like this one, and I hope this will resonate with a lot of the guys. But I said, hey, in Proverbs 27, it states that iron sharpens iron. Men need to be with other men to become better men. So the question was, please rate your own willingness to support your husband in spending more time with other men who are trying to become better every day. Right. And I know you guys have talked about this, in some of the cultural call outs and things where, guys are worried about, asking permission? Can I go to the activity? Can I go hang out with my friends?
Feeling guilty.
If I go have fun, or I feel guilty internally because I think my wife doesn't want me to go. Like, I know, Hayden, you recently, you shared a story on an episode about the guy that was playing pickleball, and like, you get the text and he'd just be like, I gotta go. Right. The feedback on this one was awesome. 100% of the responses were rating themselves on their willingness to support their husband to go do more things with men was either a 7 or higher.
Really?
And that's responded like, yes, please go do more stuff with the guys. So
interesting.
Guys, if you think you need permission from your wife, like, I'm telling you, she gives you permission. Like, you don't need to go out
crazy.
What is this data telling us? Like, at least in your ward, this is telling us that this is something that men are pushing on other men. This is telling us that it's not coming from the wives. It's coming from the older generations passing this tradition down. It's a bad tradition. We got to get rid of it. I have had it with it. HAD had it with that tradition. We got to get it out of there. And so that's amazing to see.
And that's data. Now, okay, sure, it's a small sample size, but I would challenge like any other Elders Quorum presidents who are watching this, like, do this, get some data, like, find out, and then take it to your guys, and like, just tell them the truth. So,
and
that's
real quick. Is there a possibility, maybe this is something we can get after the show, is there a possibility we might be able to get a link to that survey if there are other Elders Quorum presidents out there that would like to do something similar?
Yeah, for sure. I can get that over.
Oh, amazing.
It's pretty cool. So with the retreat, that was all about the kind of the Friday night fireside, was like going through those results and then sharing. I asked kind of another open-ended question at the very end, like, what do you women want us to know just in general? That was really, really awesome, really telling. I mean, it was just, if there was a call to action, it was that question for sure. It was just, hey,
absolutely,
men and young men, you need to step it up. Like, you need to do better here. You need to do better here. You need to do better here. But it wasn't, none of the responses were shared in a demeaning way. It was like, hey, like, we support you. We love you. We're behind you, but we can't do it alone. Like, we need you to be our partner, right?
So it wasn't cool. Like the cranky old high priest that was like, you're doing a terrible job. You got to shape up or I'm going to toss you out of here. We don't want you here. It was like, hey, I'm a loving mother. Or a wife. And I'm saying, I need your help. I feel like I'm pulling most of the spiritual load here and you're checked out.
That's exactly what it was. And not a single one of them said, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey.
You got a good word. Yeah.
So the rest of the retreat, what we did, and I told the guys ahead of time, like, look, there's going to be an element of competition to this. I want you guys to push each other. We're going to be on teams. You pick your teams. If it's you as a dad and your boys, awesome. If it's you and a couple of guys and your sons, like, you guys figure out your groups that you're going to compete basically throughout the rest of this retreat. We had a ton of physical activities, a ton of kind of mental, emotional activities. We had things like,
well, let's get into that. Like, let's break this wide open. So let's talk about the physical activities. Give me a couple of examples here. Like, what did you do?
So we had ahead of time, I had a bunch of the priests help me build some axe throwing targets, which was a cool thing.
Wow.
So we brought the axe throwing targets.
Great youth activity too.
It was awesome. The guys had a really good time building those. And you can find free plans that are like, the official World Axe Throwing League plans, like, they're out there.
Yeah.
So we had that. We had a rifle shooting section. We did a morning muster. Everybody that wants to come out. We had a guy that led everybody in some exercises together. That was pretty cool. We did a log splitting competition, which was awesome. And that was also kind of service. So
yeah,
we split. I mean, we probably split like 2 full cords of wood. It was awesome.
Whoa.
We had some leadership lessons that were taught by some of the older guys, some of those high priests that tried to involve a lot of different guys. We had a section where everybody had an opportunity to create like a title of liberty, Captain Moroni title of liberty, make your own version of it, display it at camp, create a compelling vision for your own life. We did a big like log carry. So we had these huge, like 16-foot long, like ash
So
logs.
you're going all Navy SEALs on these guys.
It was like David Goggins, but clean.
That's great. You're going to Buds. Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
We did, I think one of the hardest ones for everybody to do was give up your cell phone for a day. So like I had a bag. Look, if you're willing to, put your cell phone in the bag for the day, text your wife, text whoever, and be like, hey, I'm unavailable. Like, I'm out here with the guys and I am not available.
I'm carrying boats and I'm carrying logs. Okay.
That's right. That's right. I'm carrying the boats.
That's right.
And then there were some other things too that were like, hey, set up a get together with other men while you're here. Find somebody else, like get together outside of this. We did, build a raft, build a tower, decrypt a message. So I tried to find some things that were like, okay, maybe some guys are not really into the physical stuff. Let's try to engage the mental aspect too and some different challenges. And that was pretty cool. And every one of the items had a point value associated with it. So everybody got their own little points card. And I had again, some of the high priests who were like, yeah, like I'm not going to carry a log, but like I still want to be involved somehow. Like, okay, you know what? I need you to man the rifle shooting station. I need you to be the doctor. Like we have a doctor in the ward. I'm like, hey, bring like your medical bag. I have no idea what's going to happen. We have guns.
Throw a couple tourniquets in there. Yeah.
Be ready. Copious amounts of blood, whatever. And so every item had a point value associated with it. Kept track of your points throughout the day. at the end of the day, we had a big throughout the day. I smoked a bunch of like pork butts, so we had pulled pork and had like
nice.
this huge awesome dinner. And I don't. So what we did is then I took the young man and the old man who had the highest point value at the end of the day, as we're all kind of sitting around, hanging around, eating dinner. Had everybody kind of tally up their totals, and I had made. I guess I consider myself like an amateur woodworker, but you guys know in the movie Gladiator, of course, the VidAngel version, right? The edit version.
Of course. Yeah.
Maximus is talking. I can't remember the dude's name, but he's talking to the dude who's like his like slaver, right? The guy that bought him, and he tells Maximus about when the emperor had given him as a gladiator, had presented him with the Rudius, like that wooden sword, and hey, this represents your freedom.
Yeah.
So I made 2 of those swords and presented them, and that was the whole idea. The whole idea behind this was like, earn your freedom, like earn your sovereignty, go through and do some hard things. So I brought those 2 guys up, one young man, one old man who had the highest points, and like presented them with these swords. It was cool. Like it was like an emotional time for these guys. Like they really, really got into it. And then it's kind of sort of become like, hey, next time we do one of these, we'll bring our sword, we'll pass it on to the next guy that like wins, or if I win, I get to keep it here, that sort of a thing. So try to build a little bit of a tradition. So it was a really, really cool experience. And
that's amazing.
Planning, yes, the budget was kind of tough, but to be perfectly honest, I just kind of wore my bishop down. I just was like, look, Bishop, I'm doing this. I know that the handbook says like I'm not supposed to pay for this. I kind of maybe guilt tripped him a little bit. Like, look, I'm doing this. I'm not supposed to pay for this stuff. I have $150 for the year. I need like $400, and it wasn't that hard of a sell. A little bit,
right.
Ultimately, he was like, look, I understand what you're trying to do. This is a pretty cool thing. This is a great service for the men. Like, I'll support you.
What an awesome bishop. And that's not a huge dollar amount for those people out there. So as soon as you mentioned this, there was a little voice in my head. There's this angry old high priest voice that comes off and it says like, well, you can't do that, because that's the knee jerk. He's like, no, you can't do that because, and what do you have to say about this? Like, you can't do that because it's setting too high of an expectation on the next Elders Quorum president, almost pressuring them to carry on something that takes a lot of time and work and effort, and you're setting them up for failure pretty much. What do you have to say to that argument?
What I would say is, and I've made this really clear actually, to everybody who cared to listen, was like, in the future, whether the Elders Quorum president wants to do this or not, I'm going to do this every year. Like I don't need an Elders Quorum president's permission to do something like this.
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
Does it help? Sure. Like it makes it easier to kind of have the sort of the weight of the organization behind it. But like if I wanted to just call everybody in my quorum and say, hey, I'm doing this and I want you to come. I'm personally inviting you to come and do this. Bring your boys. Let's go have fun. I guarantee it would still happen.
Mm. Well, especially
guys who wouldn't want to do it.
Especially if you can make it like a tradition. Like if you can make it a habit in your ward, I think your men will look forward to that and they'll say, hey, we got to do this. And then you can talk to that next incoming Elders Quorum president and you can just let them know like, hey, do you want an Elders Quorum that's responsive to you, that's well connected, that do you want to earn their love and respect? This is a way to do it. Okay. And because that, and then there's another vein of people that are like, well, they should just listen to you. You shouldn't have to do anything to help them. It's like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think society is at a place where men are at an all-time low. And I think anything that we can do to help them out is a net positive. If we can just get one man, I think it's all worth it. Just one guy that fire comes back. I think it makes it worth it. So I love that.
And so we had too. We had guys that there was one dude in particular who I invited to come and be a guest speaker at the event, who was not a member he was a guy that I had met through the Iron Council and become friends with. And I actually asked him, I said, look, I need you to come talk about building a brotherhood. Which at first would be like, wait a minute, like you're asking some guy that's not even a member, like this outsider to come and talk about building a brotherhood. Yeah, for sure. And you know what? He did an awesome job, and he had some perspectives that none of those guys had ever thought of or heard before. And I guarantee it made a difference for them.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like with the outside perspective like that, it's almost needed, to kind of jolt the quorum a little bit. You need to hear it from an outsider say, you can make this happen. You don't need to rely on the stale idea of what an elders quorum is. You can make it your own thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
Yeah. Okay, well, and what kind of pushback? Have you received any pushback from this? Like, did anyone just like refuse to have a good time? So
interestingly, no, until just recently. So, and this has been a while. So here there's some successes here. There's some failures here. There's some losses too. So this happened when we did this was in 2023. I tried to do it again last year. It didn't happen because I didn't have the number of people wanting to come. I had like 8 guys who were like, yeah, okay, I can make it work that weekend or whatever. And the amount of effort that we put into it, like it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time. So that was a failure, and that's not necessarily pushback until just recently. So I'm trying to implement some of the other stuff I've heard guys mention on your channel. And while we haven't done the round table snack and chat thing yet, I did take the idea of, not yet, but I think it's coming. I did take the idea of sending out that kind of anonymous Google form, asking, guys to share their insight, ask questions, those kinds of things. That was the very first response I got from somebody. And again, it's all anonymous. The very first response we got was, hey, camping is not like the only activity that we can do. We can do other stuff too. Honestly,
yeah. Okay, like, so a scathing pushback there, yeah. And based off of the age you threw into that voice, it seems like it may have been coming from one of the maybe one of the brothers that have a hard time hearing in the quorum.
It may have been, or it was just somebody that's really angry and upset. Now, I wasn't dismissive. I'm certainly not dismissive of that. Like I asked for that feedback, and that was feedback I got, and totally. I'm gonna do something with it. And we addressed it within our quorum this past Sunday. We talked about it, and because I want to make sure that brother, whoever he is, knows that he's being heard, he's being listened to, and being taken seriously. Yeah. Because there is no such thing. Like that's the thing. Did I get everybody in the quorum to come out to the retreat? Of course not. There were a bunch of guys who didn't, but we had a lot of guys that did, and those who did had an awesome experience. Some guys will never show up. That's just the way it is, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not aiming for 100%. I'm all right with putting forth the effort and letting guys who it resonates with, letting them come and show up. We'll find other ways to serve the guys who don't want to do that.
Totally. Amazing. So after the retreat, what did you notice a shift in the quorum? Did you notice any kind of difference in the attitudes in the behaviors of your quorum members after the retreat?
Yeah, so I definitely noticed a difference and a shift, and it was almost like palpable. It was a real noticeable like closeness. There was so much more communication back and forth with the guys at church, at different events, different things. The problem was like it fades over time.
Right? Yeah.
That for me, that's the hardest part about doing something like this is like I haven't cracked the code to this part yet, is how do I keep that connection going? And I realize I can't take ownership and be like, okay, like I'm gonna play matchmaker and make sure that everybody's like buddy. Yeah. But we're trying to create an environment that does that. That's why we're always gonna try new things and try different things, and some things work. Cool, we keep doing it. Some things totally flop and we just don't. And we're like, okay, we tried it and it sucked, and we'll just move on.
Yeah.
But there was, and I had a really cool conversation with one of the guys in the quorum a few months later, and he made the comment, and it totally shocked me. He was like, you know what, Ryan, I got to be honest with you. Elders Quorum is my favorite part of church now. And I was like, blown away. I'm like laughing as he tells me this. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we made a connection.
It's working.
And it was awesome. Like, and I asked him later on, I was like, hey, what, like you made this comment, like what is it that resonates? And like his feedback was basically like, I feel like I have like a connection with the guys that I didn't have before. And I need that. I didn't realize that I needed that until I had it. So it definitely at least made a difference for him.
I like that insight. So it means that because he's saying, I didn't know this is something that I needed until I actually had it, you know? And so I think because he said that, I think other Elders Quorum presidents out there or other organizations out there who are facing something similar should perk their ears up a little bit and say, maybe you have to shake things up. Maybe full disruption is something you should try, you know, maybe try a couple new things, and maybe that'll wake up a few more people and make them realize like, whoa, I am now a part of something, you know, there is something that I'm looking forward to here that I didn't know that I needed. So yeah. I think that's incredible. Any other experiences that you want to share from the retreat or from the Brethren's reaction to that retreat?
Yeah, so I think the coolest part of the whole retreat, so at the very end, so on Saturday evening, of course this was a Friday night, Saturday, we had this huge bonfire, right? You know, we're out in the country, so you know, we had this huge bonfire. It was, gosh, probably 25 feet tall. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And we brought the tiki torches out. We made this just a cool environment, right? Kind of at sunset. And so I got up and you know, after we did the sword thing, and I said, hey, of course this is a church activity, so we're going to close everything out with a testimony meeting, right? That's everybody kind of expected it. What I did differently is I challenged the fathers who were present to bring their sons up in front of everybody and bear their testimony to their sons.
Wow.
Not to us. Like, you turn and face your son, bear your testimony to your son or sons, tell him how you feel about your Savior, tell him how you feel about the restored gospel, about him, about his mom, about whatever comes to your heart. That was for sure like the highlight. It was for sure, it was the most emotional testimony meeting I've ever been a part to. And I've been to girls' camp. So it was.
Whoa. Look at that.
That is some like generational change. That is very impactful. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was, if there are, you know, quorum members or Elders Quorum presidents or presidency members who are out there, they're like, gosh, there's no way I'm going to pull off something like this, or I just whatever. If you can figure out a way to just do that, that on its own was phenomenal.
I like that you're going there. So if there is an Elders Quorum president out there who's watching this, who's saying like, hey, this seems like a lot. I don't know that I'm like a good woodworker. I don't know that I could make a wooden sword. You know, I don't know that I could create all these different puzzles or these stations, but maybe I could organize like a camp out and maybe I could throw some difficult challenges in there or something like that, like organize a group run, you know, or something like that. I think what would your advice to that Elders Quorum president be who's saying like, it seems like a lot. I love the ideas, but how do I make this applicable to my quorum?
Yeah. I think probably my first piece of advice would be, if you don't feel, you know, you're okay, I'm not the woodworker, I can't do that, or I'm not the, you know, the gym expert, can't teach everybody how to do this thing, or I'm not the firearms expert, so I'm not going to do training, whatever it is. I bet you know somebody who can. I bet you know somebody who does. I bet you know somebody who would do that stuff.
Sure.
Ask them for help. Like, lead out by that example and be vulnerable, be honest, and say, hey, I want to try something different. I'm not sure how to really pull this off. Here's kind of the idea. do you know could you help me with this? Do you know anybody that could help me with that? The more you can ask that, you're just going to make connections with the guys in your quorum, even just doing that and saying, hey, I want to try this. I'm not quite sure how. Can you help me? Like, I think I heard that you're the woodworker guy. I heard that you're the firearms guy. I heard that, like, look, you're jacked. You clearly go to the gym 3 times a day. Like, what is it? Like,
Right.
help me with this, right? Ask for some help, or just scale it back and figure out, like, maybe you live in, maybe you live in a real urban area and you're like, yeah, I don't know a guy that's got a 22-acre farm that I could go out and do something like this. You probably, okay, cool. But is there something? What could you do? Even if it's not an overnight thing, even if it's just, shoot, I had another experience that we did where I reached out to all the guys in the quorum, and this was very unofficial. Yes, I was the president, but it was just Ryan. It wasn't, EQP.
Right. Your tie was flipped over your shoulder. Yeah.
It was like, okay, we're gonna flip the tie, or even take the tie off. And just say, hey, like, I want to go on a hike. Who wants to come with me? Like, anybody want to go on a hike? Like, we're going to go do a ruck for like 5 miles. And like, does anybody want to come? I had 4 guys who were like, that sounds awesome. What's rucking? Like, okay,
wow. Hey, there you go.
Right. You can ruck anywhere. Like, I don't care if you live in, I don't care if you're in the Manhattan 3rd Ward. Like, you can figure something out to find get out of the building, get out of the church building. You can find something where you can make a connection with the guys. You can do something that's tough. And I think you'll find that will bond you together really well.
Yeah, I love that. So the elements are like, get them away from their cell phones, get them doing something hard together, and get them into something spiritual together, And if you can engage them that way, then brotherhood is going to start forming, and that's how you can start forming those connections.
Yeah, because I think that. It breaks down the walls that guys have. Like, we all, whether we want to admit it or not, like, we all have some wall of bravado, right? We all have a little bit of an ego. Like, we don't want to be that guy. But guess what? Like, if you just are that guy, you just make a decision and be like, you know what, I'm going to be that guy this one time and ask for help or invite somebody to do something. You might be surprised. Like, you might find out other guys kind of feel the same way.
Totally. All right. Well, what would your advice be to maybe some elder out there who feels like he's in a forgotten quorum? He feels like he's struggling for brotherhood. He feels like he wants to connect more, but he can't. He feels stuck. What's your advice to that guy?
Yeah, I can connect with that. I've been in quorums like that before, and I think it would be, I would go back to, when you were asking me, like, hey, what, are you setting too high of a bar for the next Elders Quorum president with this whole retreat idea? You're, whatever. You don't have to have permission. Like, here's like I'll answer this question with like maybe another cultural call out, and you guys can take this and run with it at some point.
Hey.
But like and I hope I don't get a call from my state president tomorrow. But the almost worship of the general handbook that we have in culturally, that says, like, I can't do anything if it's not in the handbook, and I can't do anything outside of the handbook, and if it doesn't specifically say that, I can't do that. No, you can. Like, I promise you can. There's nothing in the handbook that says you should or shouldn't do a men's retreat. There's nothing in the handbook that says you can't just, as a member of the quorum, ask guys to go do something and step up and say, hey, like, I really want to connect with you guys in the quorum. Like, in your next quorum meeting in a couple weeks, like, raise your hand and be like, hey, I'm kind of struggling. Like, you guys may have heard that like one of Jesus's greatest miracles was that he had like 11 best friends that were his, like, that were other men.
Yeah.
I kind of want that. And I bet that's going to connect. That's going to land with somebody.
Sure.
Somebody else in your quorum feels the same way that you do. I guarantee it. And if you can find some way to connect, and even if it's just, hey man, like, do you game? Do you play pickleball? Do you whatever? Do you want to go watch a baseball game together? Do you want to just hang out and like watch a UFC fight? Like, I've done that with guys in the quorum too. Like, I've got a guy who's kind of on and off active. He loves to watch UFC, and I'm like, dude, let's get together and watch a fight. Like,
Yeah.
During the fights or during the rounds when they lift the signs up, like I'll go to the bathroom during that time or whatever. But like, let's watch a fight together.
Yeah.
You don't need permission from your Elders Quorum president or from your bishop or your stake president. Like, just do what your wife probably wants you to do anyways, and just lead. Just take a step up and lead.
So think outside the box a little bit. Get creative. Try some new things. Tanner, do you want to plug the Discord? I think it would probably be a good time.
Yeah, so we have Discord, dadsneedfriends.com. Go there. We're trying to create a digital version of what Ryan's been talking about here, trying to form that brotherhood. Technically it's an open faith, like interfaith platform that we're trying to build here, where we can just meet as men and build each other up, connect, play some games, and have a good time, right? So I encourage everyone to go check it out, join us there. That's actually what we're going to be doing right after this recording, is jumping on and playing some games there. So should be a fun time.
There you go.
Yeah, and speaking about doing hard things, I've signed up for a Murph challenge. I don't know if you're familiar. If you're not, go Google that. But if you want to do a virtual Murph with me, then you got a couple weeks to train. So buckle up. But we can do some hard things together. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a group in the Discord for that, Murph. So that's where we coordinate. So come join us there.
I love it. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. I love the ideas that you have. I love the passion, the fire that you're trying to start, that you are starting in your quorum, and that you're trying to share with other people. I think any Elders Quorum presidents out there, take after that example, think outside the box, shake things up, and don't be afraid to do it. I think we're running out of time. So until next time, I'm Hayden Holm. This is Tanner Holm, Ryan Mills, and this is Salty Saints. See you next time.